I'm Joyce Woodworth. Welcome to the Spirit of Winona. Today we're standing outside the Blue Heron Cafe, which used to be McVeigh's ice cream parlor. When Mr. McVeigh owned it, he made his ice cream right here in this building, and it was absolutely the best ice cream in town. Today's owners, Larry and Colleen Woolner, happen to make the best soups in town and have offered to share 2 of their recipes with us.
The original building was built in the 20s. It served as a corner store called the Campus Tent until 1936, when Cash McVeigh purchased it and served full-course dinners for 35 cents. His son Jerry worked with him, and together they learned how to make the best ice cream in town. For 15 cents, Jerry would deliver a pint of ice cream on his bicycle any place in Winona. After World War II, Jerry ran the ice cream shop and made it every kid's favorite store in Winona. In the 50s, he introduced soft-serve ice cream and piqued everyone's interest by serving free samples. In 1966, he remodeled the building to its present-day look and sold the business in 1984.
As much as I liked Mr. McVeigh's homemade chocolate ice cream, on a cold day like today, I'd much rather have soup.
We enter a cozy cafe atmosphere named for our Mississippi Blue Heron. Coffee, delicious homemade muffins, sandwiches, salads, and wonderful homemade soups are the fare of each and every day.
I'm presently standing in the kitchen of the Blue Heron with Colleen and Larry Woolner, and they are the cooks. Hi, welcome to the show, Colleen.
Hi, Joyce.
Welcome to the show, Larry. And what are we making today?
2 soups. We're going to start out with a roasted potato garlic soup.
Wonderful. Can you tell me what the ingredients are in it?
Yep, we've got red potatoes that have been peeled and diced, large yellow onion, we've got fresh rosemary, salt, pepper, garlic, olive oil, little vegetable stock, and some half and half.
And how many potatoes do you have in this bowl?
6 medium potatoes and about a 1-inch dice.
Okay. And it looks like Larry is cutting the perfect medium potato. Where do you get your perfect potatoes?
We get it from, right now we get it from Featherstone Fruits and Vegetables. It's a local producer. We try to choose organic potatoes. All of our vegetables are organic when we can, because it's just a much better product.
Got your 6 cups of potatoes.
And we just toss the onions in there.
And how many onions is that?
That's one very large onion. If I don't have a large one, I'll use a couple small ones. So
Okay.
about 1.5 cups, I suppose, maybe 2 cups.
I'm always afraid to use too many onions, but this is encouraging.
Yeah, well, when you roast the onions especially, and the garlic, as you probably can taste, it seems like there's a lot of garlic in this. But once it's roasted, it kind of sweetens and caramelizes, and the onions do the same thing when they're roasted. And that gives you a really unique flavor, as opposed to just cooking it, simmering it in a broth on the stove.
So how do you roast these potatoes?
Well, I'm going to drizzle the olive oil with the onions and potatoes. The salt, there's a 1.5 teaspoons, and you can add more or less to taste. 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, and I'm just going to take 1 sprig of fresh rosemary. I wouldn't recommend using a dried rosemary. It just doesn't have the same flavor. And we make this depending on what kind of herbs are in season. You can use fresh thyme or parsley or basil, any of those herbs. And this is a real, I'm a rosemary fan, so I like to use rosemary a lot.
I noticed many of your soups are very flavorful. Do you account that because of the herbs that you put in?
Partly. I only use the fresh herbs when they're in season. I don't usually buy them shipped in. So in the winter you'll see it'll change. But really it's the ingredients that we use. When we buy the fresh organic, your soup's only going to be as good as the ingredients you use. If I had a potato that was half rotten, I wouldn't just cut off the rotten part and use the rest, or a carrot that's not fresh any longer. Some people used to think you'd use your old vegetables in your soups, but if you wouldn't eat it raw, like a carrot, if you wouldn't eat it raw, I wouldn't use it. Just toss this all together and put it into a roasting pan. The pan doesn't need to be oiled since the ingredients are. And just spread that out. And that goes into a 400-degree oven. And I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes. Because after 10 minutes, I'm going to add the garlic. Potatoes and onions and garlic and spices and herbs have been in the oven for about 40 minutes. Total baking time at 400 degrees. Should be done. Nice roasty potatoes.
They look done.
And the rest is real simple. Just place the roasted vegetables in a pan, a stock pot.
Oh, it smells delicious. Very garlicky.
Mm-hmm.
Delicious. I might mention too that they also have coffee here, and they offered me a cup, and the coffee is the best. It's delicious.
Thanks. Now this is a vegetable stock. Sometimes we make our own, and sometimes we use a concentrate that we're confident in. It's low sodium and all natural.
So now this is how many cups of
This
stock?
is six cups of a vegetable stock.
Okay.
And then you just pour that right over the roasted vegetables. And we'll bring that to a simmer and cook it covered until the potatoes finish cooking, till they're very tender and fall apart.
How do you keep from crying as you're cutting your onions?
You don't keep from crying. It all depends on the onions. Some onions are really pungent, and others aren't. And you don't know that till you cut it. All sorts of remedies, cutting it underwater, cutting the right end first, but we don't really have time to do anything other than just chop the onions.
Mm-hmm. Of course, you're the perfect person to cut the onion because your eyes are a
So
further
far
distance
away
from
it,
that
it still
onion.
affects me.
Joyce, the potatoes are tender with the potato garlic soup, and we're ready to take half of the soup and blend it or use a food processor, and then we'll add it back to the stock pot and add the final ingredient. It's a little too much.
So you just take half of the soup that you've had simmering on the stove.
Yep, you don't want it to be blended until it's smooth. You want to have a lot of texture in it.
Mm-hmm.
But by blending it, it'll thicken the broth.
Actually looks like applesauce.
Mm-hmm. It'll add nice texture to the soup.
Mm-hmm.
Thicken it. Now this might splash a little bit.
Okay.
Here. Be careful. Stir it. Return it to the stove, and add final ingredient, the half and half. You'll want to stir while you add the cream so you don't get any curdling. Rich and creamy.
And then you just heat that to the point that it's hot and serve it immediately?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Joyce, would you like to try some of the potato soup?
Oh, I'd love to. Lucky me. Well, it smells delicious. Oh, this is one of my favorites. This is really, really good. Mm-hmm. Delicious.
Thank you.
And I notice you have some croutons.
Mm-hmm. We use our day-old bread, and rather than throw it away, we slice it into small pieces, and we use an olive oil, garlic, herb mixture, and we toast them in the oven.
Mm-hmm. Adds a lot of good
Serve it
flavor.
with our soup.
This is Colleen's roasted potato and garlic soup recipe. 6 medium potatoes, 1 large onion, 1/2 teaspoon pepper, 1 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1 sprig of fresh rosemary, 2 tablespoons olive oil, 14 to 18 cloves of garlic, 6 cups of vegetable stock, 1 cup of half and half. Mix the potatoes, onion, salt, pepper, rosemary, and olive oil in a large bowl. Spread on a cookie sheet and bake at 400 degrees for 10 minutes. Sprinkle the garlic cloves on top and bake for an additional 30 minutes. Remove from the oven and stir into the vegetable stock on top of the stove. Bring to a boil. Cover and simmer for 10 minutes. Add half and half. Remove half of the soup and puree in a blender. Return it to the pan and heat through.
Well, Colleen, what soup are you making now?
This one's a lemon basil mushroom soup, and we're going to use leftover Thanksgiving turkey with this.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, what other ingredients goes in it?
We have fresh mushrooms,
Mm-hmm.
butter, chopped onion. There's our turkey that's already been diced, and this is what it looks like when you tear it off the breast. If you're lucky to have that much left after Thanksgiving. We've got a diced carrots and celery, cloves of garlic, some fresh basil, half and half, and wild rice, and also fresh lemon. And this is a vegetable broth, but you could use a turkey stock or a chicken stock as well.
Now, I noticed your turkey has, is it green parsley on it?
It's got some herbs. Larry roasted that.
Can you just tell us briefly how you prepared your turkey?
Well, just cleaned it and basically I just put the herbs on it, rub some olive oil on it, and that's all there is to it.
And just stick it in the oven for
Yeah.
a couple hours, or?
Depends on the size of the bird.
Mm-hmm.
Slow oven.
Did you stuff it, or?
No, I didn't stuff it.
One thing that's good to know is if you are making a stock out of a bird that's been stuffed, you want to make sure that it's cleaned out really well. If it's important to you that the broth is clear.
Mm-hmm.
But if it doesn't matter, then you'll just get some more flavors from whatever the stuffing was.
Where do you get most of your recipes from?
I love food magazines, and I get a lot of recipes from any kind of food periodicals. But newspapers, friends, and we have a pretty good-sized cookbook collection, and certain favorites, and we go through times when we're always looking at the same books over and over, and then we might get an older one out and start looking through that again. Especially if we're planning a menu, we'll use several books.
Now you say we. Larry, do you?
Yeah.
Are you also interested in looking at cookbooks?
Yeah. It's fun to do.
How do you find a husband like that?
That's another show, Joyce.
This is the list of the ingredients for the lemon basil turkey mushroom soup. 1/4 cup butter, 1 1/4 cup onion, 1 pound fresh mushrooms, 2 stalks of celery, 2 carrots, 4 cloves of garlic, 12 cups of vegetable or poultry stock, 3/4 cups of uncooked wild rice, the juice and zest of 1 lemon, 1/2 cup fresh basil, 3 cups of cooked cubed turkey, and 2 cups of half and half.
How many of the mushrooms and how many of the onions?
1 pound of fresh mushrooms that are sliced, 2 stalks of celery, fresh, diced, and 2 large carrots, cleaned and diced. Those are also fresh. And then we have 4 cloves of garlic, and these are supposed to be minced. So, now
I like the knife that you're using. It looks like a nice sharp one.
it's a great tool. It's probably the most important tool in the kitchen for me. It's called a rat tail sharpener. Does it have another name, Larry? Or?
It's steel.
A steel. And we have a couple different sharpeners we use, but this one keeps the nice edge on the knife. And
How often during the day do you happen to sharpen it?
usually before I start any kind of prep work. So probably 3 or 4 times.
I think I do mine about once a year.
Well, you know, when we're working with a lot of food, your elbow and your shoulder will start to bother you if you don't have a sharp knife. You'll be putting so much effort into everything you do with it. And it becomes less of a chore if your knife is sharp. When you're working with something small like this and you're chopping, you want to make sure that if you're grasping the vegetable, your knuckles are bent and your fingers are away from the sharp edge, so that you're not going to get anything underneath that blade. You can walk your knife across that and mince it.
You make it look so easy.
I've had a lot of practice.
How many soups a week do you figure you prepare?
Well, 14 at least.
Larry, are you cleaning the mushrooms right now?
Yeah, the mushrooms come with a fair amount of soil on them because they're very tender vegetable. And brushing them off and washing them off would make them unusable. So we brush off the dirt particles with a clean towel before we slice them.
Now, why don't you put them under the faucet and wash them underwater?
Well, mushroom is very absorbent. And if we were to wash them, they'd absorb lots of the water and become mushy. It makes them unpalatable.
The vegetables have sautéed for 5 to 10 minutes, and now I'm going to add the vegetable stock. And the wild rice. And we're going to bring that to a boil and simmer it covered until the rice is tender. It takes about a half an hour.
This is the second part of the recipe for you to copy down. In a 6-quart Dutch oven, melt your butter. Sauté the onions, mushrooms, celery, carrots, and garlic. Stir in the broth and wild rice. Simmer covered for 30 to 40 minutes until the rice is done. Add the lemon zest and juice, the basil, the turkey, and the half and half. Heat through and serve.
Colleen, it's really starting to smell good over there.
The vegetables are cooked and the rice is cooked. We're ready to add the final ingredients, which is the zest and the juice of 1 lemon, the diced turkey, and our fresh basil. Lemons, if you want to yield a lot of juice out of a lemon, make sure it's either room temperature or warm. If we take it out of the cooler, we'll soak it in some hot water for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And then if you roll it like this, you'll get a little more juice out of it as well. And I'm going to use this zester just to get the...
When it says the zest of a lemon, exactly how much of that skin do you need?
Only the yellow. If you go under the yellow, you'll see the white. It's called the pith, and that's bitter.
Okay.
So you don't want that. You just want the very surface yellow.
What an interesting combination, turkey and lemon.
And the basil.
Yes.
There's a juicer that we use here that we really like, and so we'll get all the juice out of this lemon.
You know, the two of you make a fabulous team.
Thanks.
Do you always get along this well?
Oh, always.
Do you? As long as you're telling him what to do, right? And he does. How many cups of soup are we preparing?
This recipe serves 8 to 10 generous servings.
Okay.
We're ready to add this to the soup.
Okay.
Now all we really need to do with this is to make sure everything is heated through. The basil, the sooner you serve the soup the better, because the basil still tastes very fresh. And then all we have to do is add our half and half, and it's finished.
Okay, how long does this simmer now?
Just bring it up the temperature back up after adding the cold ingredients. And
Up to a boil?
Maybe 5 minutes.
Okay. Oh, it smells delicious, Colleen.
Everything is heated through. We're ready to add the cream, and it's important to stir it while you add it so that you don't get any curdling. Add it slowly, and then it's finished.
Well, the soup is all ready, and it smells wonderful, Colleen.
Thank you. You're going to try some, aren't you?
Of course I'm going to. I was hoping you'd ask. And I noticed you're serving the soup with a little bit of bread. Where did you get that beautiful loaf of bread?
Larry's the bread baker here.
Oh, it's gorgeous. So, Larry, you made that loaf of bread?
Yeah.
And this is like a perfect meal, soup and bread. Larry, tell me a little bit about that bread.
This is just a peasant bread, a real simple recipe. We've been trying a variety of different ingredients. This is how it turns out.
And it's gorgeous. And which oven do you prepare this in?
We have a 3-deck pizza oven here, and the top one's got a stone floor, and works really well for cooking bread because it holds heat and it's very hot.
Oh, it's beautiful. And look at this. This is an absolutely gorgeous meal. The soup and the fresh oven-baked bread. All right, I'll be the tester here. It is fabulous, as usual. I love your soups.
Thank
and
you.
I'm going to sit in your restaurant and eat this bowl of soup. But I want to thank the two of you for being on the Spirit of Winona.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you
Thank you
so
for
much.
having us.
And sharing your wonderful recipes.
All right.
This has been Joyce Woodworth on the Spirit of Winona. Please join me again on my next show on the Spirit of Winona.